Hello and welcome to the Morning Watch on Love 101 FM. I'm your host, Dionne Toussaint. Now, a special welcome to our listeners on love101.org, and if you're overseas and on the move, U.S. listeners can access us at 712-832-8001. And if you're in the UK, 0330-332-6541, or join us via the Love 101 FM app that can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. You can also join us on Love 101 FM Facebook and YouTube Live. In the first watch today, Yui and a looming gender identity policy. In the second watch, exploring who or what is the modern day modest and the decent Christian. And for our social media question, we ask, how would you describe the modern day modest and decent Christian? Please share your responses on our Love 101 FM Facebook page and YouTube channel, and also on WhatsApp 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll share your responses later on in the program, but before all of that, here's our quote.
Good morning, good morning. So today's I quote is, let us find it. Okay, so today's I quote is a island quote, and it says, you pray your bed hard, you have to lay down panny hard. Now, that means you must accept responsibility for your actions, and whatever you sow, you will surely reap.
Good morning, Joka.
Good morning.
Are you a good bed spreader?
Yeah, man, I can spread my bed very well. I get to tuck the sides, and you understand, ensure the pillows are propped up well. Yeah, man, that's me.
So, mommy has been proud of you.
Yeah, man, definitely. Big up, Mumselle.
I hope you treated her well and royally on Sunday.
Definitely.
Great. Yes, a number of mothers enjoyed it. Well, let us continue to make sure our beds are spread properly. Eh?
That's right.
The first watch will be back after this break.
Holt Hardware and Supplies for electrical, plumbing, and building items at low prices. Everything you need for the home. Rugs, decorative curtain rods, sheet set, picture frames, indoor and outdoor lights, and more. That's Holt's Hardware, St. John's Road between Ebony and Royal Place, Spanish Town, St. Catherine. Telephone 876-648-7166 or 876-648-7017. Holt's Hardware, the leader in electrical and building supplies.
Jamaica, let us arrive alive. We know everyone has somewhere to be or someone to see. Whether you're going on a trip, headed to a party, running errands, getting gifts, or visiting family and friends. Arrive alive. Slow down. There's no rush. Look out for yourself and others. Don't let your life be a statistic. Too many Jamaicans are dying on our roads. So take time upon the road. Arrive alive.
A message from the Office of the Prime Minister.
Educom does it again with the mega car loan sale. 100% financing, interest rate of 6.95% and up to 10 years to repay. Hurry now and visit any of our 9 branches. Call Educom at 876-926-6973 or WhatsApp 876-559-7575 for more info. Educom Cooperative Credit Union Limited. Value through service.
Colgate Triple Action. 3 benefits for a deep clean. As a mother, you always want to give the best to your family and to make them happy. With Colgate Triple Action, you give them 3 reasons to smile. Cavity protection, whiter teeth, and fresh breath. A unique formula with a minty flavor they will love. Colgate Triple Action. Find it at your favorite store. They're full of life. You're full of love. They're carefree. You can more. That's why we created Child Protector, a critical illness insurance plan from Sagicor Life. It provides coverage for your child in the event of 15 critical illnesses, hospitalization benefits, life insurance, and investment benefits. So make sure your child can live life to the fullest. Apply for Sagicor Child Protector today.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dionne Toussaint. Now, a policy document to address gender issues at the University of the West Indies has come under some amount of scrutiny in recent times. And the spotlight has been on the section of the policy, looming policy, which would, as the Jamaica Observer states, require everyone connected to the regional institution to be referred to by the gender with which they identify. End of quote. Well, to address these and other related issues, we have online Deacon Peter Espeut, sociologist and development scientist, and Ms. Jenni Campbell, President of the Association of Christian Communicators and Media, that's ACCM, and she's also a journalist and PR consultant and specialist. Good morning to you both.
Morning, my brother. Morning to the listeners.
Thank you. Morning. Ms. Campbell, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Is Ms. Campbell on?
You're not hearing me well? Can you hear me?
Yes, Ms.
Hello?
Campbell, are you with us? I'm hearing you in distance.
Oh, okay. I took out the earphone, so maybe I better go without the earphone.
Yeah, we're hearing you now. Good.
Okay.
Good morning.
Okay. Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Morning. Yes. Now, lady and gentlemen, what is your understanding of the aforementioned gender identity policy? And what are your opening thoughts in that regard? Let me begin with Deacon Espeut.
Well, this all starts from an ideology that says that the reality is determined by what I say it is. So never mind that I am born with XY chromosomes, which makes me a man, and that I have the sexual equipment of a man. I decide one day that I want to be a woman, then you must agree with me and call me she or her. This is, as far as I'm concerned, this is anti-science.
Anti-science?
Anti-science, because science determines sex. So I quite agree that there's a difference between sex and gender. Sex has to do with your chromosomes and your physical bodily equipment. But gender is a social construct created by socialization. And sometimes a person's sex and a person's gender do not coincide. In other words, there's some maladaptation where a person who is male, for example, is brought up to think that they are female. And then there's a disconnect. What this policy is trying to do is to say that where such mismatch has taken place, we have to respect it. It's part of a modern thing where there's no such thing as wrong or right. It depends on what you want. So if you want to be called male or female, that's your choice. And there's no such thing as good English or bad English. You want to speak a certain way or to use a certain word, that's your freedom. In other words, it's freedom gone awry. It seems to me that, I mean, I start off my career as a natural scientist, a chemist and zoologist. And I quite expect that people with XX chromosomes are female and people with XY chromosomes are male. This idea that you can decide that you're going to ignore your biological identity and choose a different gender identity is really freedom gone awry.
Interesting. Miss Campbell, your opening thoughts?
Yes, I really appreciate what my brother Peter just said. Very, 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 very on point. But I want to expand a little further, just to say that the efforts by the LGBTQI community and the feminist group over many, many years, those efforts have brought us to this place where we're willing to call wrong right and right wrong. The fact that it has arrived in Jamaica as something that our foremost university is considering as a policy should indicate to us how far of a reach that this has been by those groups. Internationally, it's now accepted, right? To the point where children who begin to show any level of this distortion that Peter just spoke about, that they are encouraged and in some cases given medication to support the distortion, and even to go further to be offered surgery to ensure that the distortion becomes normal or normalized. So it is far-reaching, and I don't see how any parent in Jamaica, regardless of how a child may be socialized, meaning that a boy may be raised in a household where it's predominantly female, and maybe he may be surrounded by a lot of the female energy, and he begins to demonstrate this female energy, that the parent will say, okay, then he's female, he's not a boy, he's not a girl. But this is where we're at. Anything goes. Once it feels good, it goes. Once it feels, it doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. If it feels good, we're going with it. So we accept all of these things, regardless of the consequences, because this has serious consequences. Consequences in terms of the impact on our family life, consequences in terms of the impact on our national life, and consequences on the impact on humanity and the future of humanity. But those things we are ready to ignore in order to go with the flow, and that is troubling.
Interesting thoughts. All right, stick a pin right there. We're up on a break. We'll be right back.
Your part in helping us become rock solid and ready. For more information on the National Natural Disaster Risk Financing Policy, visit mof.gov.jm. The time by the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service is
7:16.
Where you get the money transfer? Where you get the money transfer? Where you get the money transfer? Money move like a bird, like a plane, it's a blur. Money quick, money fast, money reach in a flash. This your agent, no run out of cash.
Get your Mother's Day Mummy Transfer at Alliance, May 5 to May 27, and you could be one of 14 moms to win 50,000 Jamaican dollars. One winner from each parish.
Tell me where you get the money transfer.
Alliance, a member of Sadco Group Jamaica. Conditions apply.
Follow Grace Sardine, better flavor. Grace Sardine with the chef and the beginner. Follow the one with pepper, that are the winner. Shop on supermarkets, everybody sell it. Do all of them nice. Pass the back, make push it.
Grace Sardines, follow the better flavor. Calling all candidates registered for City and Guilds exams in June, reminding you that math is on the 6th and English on the 7th of June. Both exams will be at 9 a.m. sharp. You will sit your exams at your schools. Don't miss this opportunity provided by the Ministry of Education and Youth. This certification could be your passport to the future.
From generation to generation, Jamaicans have depended on J&B Bank to make the pride and joy of providing a safe place for their families possible. Now, with no processing fees and no down payment mortgage options, you can open the door to your own sweet home, a legacy to hand to your next generation. Visit jnbank.com to get pre-approved today. J&B Bank will help you find a way.
Holtz Hardware and Supplies for electrical, plumbing, and building items at low prices. Everything you need for the home. Rugs, decorative curtain rods, sheet set, picture frames, indoor and outdoor lights, and more. That's Holtz Hardware, St. John's Road between Ebony and Royal Place, Spanish Town, St. Catherine. Telephone 876-648-7166 or 876-648-7017. Holtz Hardware, the leader in electrical and building supplies.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dionne Toussaint, and in this, the first watch, we are looking at what may be called a looming gender identity policy at the UWI. And in so doing, we have online Ms. Jenni Campbell, President of the Association of Christian Communicators and Media. And we also have online Deacon Espeut, Sociologist and Development Specialist. Before the break, you gave some interesting thoughts in this regard. I'd like to drill down a little bit more, beginning with you, Deacon Espeut, in terms of your statement that there's a difference between sex and gender. No, I think that's part of the problem, is it not? You're saying, I think I heard you say that gender is a social construct. And there are some of us who grew up understanding that gender, you have two genders, male and female. Isn't the root of the word gender gene?
Yeah, you have two sexes, male and female, and two genders, masculine and feminine.
Mm-hmm.
But the point is that your gender is supposed to match your sex. And this is where society comes in.
Because the root of the word gender, is it not gene?
Well, I can't say, I don't know. The word gene itself has another origin. I mean, you have genus, which has to do with category. It's not, I don't think gene itself is a root word.
Mm-hmm.
Both gene and gender come from the same thing. But you bring it back to my Latin now.
Yeah.
But the point is that if people have male equipment, that is to say, their sex is male. The idea is that society is supposed to socialize you into male behavior, into masculine behavior. And so there's supposed to be a line-up between sex and gender. But the problem is when people are born with male equipment but wish to be female, or they're born with female equipment but they prefer to be masculine. And this is the problem. Now, what has been done in the past, in the bad old days, is we would say, we have a problem, that there is a mismatch. And therefore, the psychologist would come in and say, well, what we've got to do now, this is a disorder. We've got to fix it. We've got to help all biological males to have masculine gender, masculine identity, and all persons with female genes and equipment to have feminine identity. But that is not the route that is being taken now. There's nothing wrong, they say, with anything. If I have masculine equipment and wish to be female, you must allow me to do that. In other words, what was previously called a disorder is not a disorder anymore. It's normal. That's the problem. By the same token, I mean, male and female, we're not even talking the Bible now. But even though I'm a theologian, if I want to convince people who are not religious, I can't quote the Bible. So I don't quote the Bible in this kind of discussion. What we're talking about is nature. Nature requires male and female to come together to produce children. That's why we have the equipment that we are born with.
Mm-hmm.
And if all of a sudden 2 males decide that they wish to have sex together, that is not going to produce children. And so we would say that goes against nature. We're not talking about the Bible now. We're talking about biology. That the species demands that is being reproduced. And male or female connections are not going to reproduce the species. And therefore it's against nature. We're not talking about the Bible. We're talking ethics, morality, We're in the region of science, of biology. And so just common sense will tell you that the way nature wants it is for male and female to be together. But and it used to be that this was considered a disorder if 2 males or 2 females were together. But the psychologists come in now and say, oh, well, this is normal. And they removed, this is where it all started, when the psychologists removed homosexuality from its list of disorders. It's not a disorder anymore, it's normal. And that's why we've ended up where we are. What is actually a natural disorder is now being called normal and natural, and there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
And we'll normalize it.
Yeah.
And that is really the social problem, Dylan and my system.
Yeah. Ms. Campbell, I gather that yesterday an Observer article made mention of your organization mounting up some sort of a pushback, I think those were the words used, against possible implementation of the gender identity policy at UWI.
Absolutely.
Maybe you plan to have something in Mobile on Friday.
On Friday, this Friday, May 19th. Friday, May 19th at 6 o'clock at Town Hall. It's actually the second staging because we have been quite aware, especially since late last year into this year, of the movements on the ground to try and change the laws, the Constitution, especially as it concerns. But it's not an overt done campaign. It's not an agenda that is overt. So you have different coming up in different ways, different forms, different places. Like
but the argument, no, Ms. Campbell, that they're saying, person might be saying, why the focus on these things? What about crime, violence, poverty?
I'm very happy I'm very happy that you said that, because this thing, as you mentioned it, this thing is really a symptom of deeper problems and deeper consequences. Now, speaking spiritually, I recognize that Deacon Espeut wants to stay away from the spiritual argument, but I can't. But speaking spiritually, homosexuality and the general immorality, including prostitution and all of those things, happen in the spiritual realm, according to the Bible, when God leave man up to their reprobate behavior. And in a country that we call ourselves a Christian country, where we want to raise Christian families, good godly families, on good godly standards, reprobate behavior is not something that we can accept. And so we understand fully that this thing that is coming through the various agendas, especially from overseas and in some particular countries that keep using money to change minds, that this requires severe and significant pushback, because it is going to affect not just our children in school, it's going to affect our families and all of us along the way. And yes, corruption is part of it. So we talk against corruption as well. But this thing in particular is going to have an impact on family life, how we define family, how we reproduce after ourselves, because as Deacon Espeut rightly said, these relationships can't reproduce anything, and under God, we are under instruction to be fruitful and multiply. You can't be fruitful and multiply under those relationships. So they must not be encouraged. And so, yes, there has to be a focus on it. And we are also mindful of the consequences. If God leave us to our reprobate behavior, which that explains quite a lot in terms of other things, like the murder in the streets,
Okay.
like the robbery, like the scamming, because
Right,
it's
but they're
all
all
part of
interconnected.
the bad behavior.
They're
And so
all
we have
interconnected.
to speak up.
Yeah. Deacon Espeut, I know you said earlier that you didn't want to put the Bible in this, but I don't know if you are aware, but there's also an argument afoot which says that, what about Proverbs 23, where it states, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. So there are persons who are arguing, if I think that I'm a man and I think that I'm a woman today, that's supposed to be fine. What's your response to that? You are who you think you are.
First of all, let me explain that why I say I don't want the Bible in it. It's not because I don't believe the Bible is in it.
No, man. No. I don't.
I'm talking about
I understand.
in trying to get your views across the general public.
Right.
The general public is not Christian. Quoting the Bible is not going to help.
Right.
But and also the way we use the Bible is also important. So you can't quote one isolated verse to me and then try and make a psychological argument out of it. Right. Certainly we Catholics don't use the Bible that way.
Right.
And I know that your denomination doesn't use the Bible that way either.
Right.
So
how
if an isolated
now?
verse in the Bible says, as a man thinks, so is he.
Yeah.
Therefore, if a person who is born male thinks he's female, then the Bible justifies transgender. No, you can't argue like that. We don't argue like that. That's not what the passage means. The passage, that particular passage has to do with the fact that sin begins in the mind, and that a person who steals didn't start by the act of stealing. He started by, in his mind, having felonious intent. So I resist that sort of fundamentalist biblical exegesis. Yeah. But I know that that's not really what you are saying.
No, man. I'm just asking the questions, you know. Use these scriptures, so we need to respond.
Well, the devil can quote scripture, you know.
Yes.
And this is part of the problem, that we who are all Christians, although we believe that the Bible is the inspired word of God, we don't mean the same thing by that. But I know you don't want to get into a biblical discussion right now.
No.
What we want to focus on is the fact that freedom has gone awry. We seem to misunderstand what freedom means. So the real issue is, if I am born male, am I free to decide that I don't wish to be male, but I wish to be female? That's the question. Is that a proper use of my freedom? Does freedom go against nature, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And they say nature is of no consequence. It doesn't matter if you are born with XX or XY chromosomes. It doesn't matter if you are born with male sex organs or female sex organs. Yeah. That does not determine whether I behave like I am male or female. I will behave.
Have to leave it there.
Yeah, we have to leave it there.
We have to leave it there. So sorry. Interesting discussion, informative. Thank you both for joining us. And all the best, Jenni, on Friday.
Thank you so much. I'm hoping to see you there.
You are going to be there, but my thoughts and prayers are with you all. Okay?
Thank you so much. God bless you.
Yeah,
okay.
Listeners Morning Watch will return in just a moment.
JN Bank Small Business Loans. Tell us your business and let's turn your ambitions into reality. The Time by JN Bank Small.
Ready up, Jamaica! Get excited for a one-of-a-kind experience on Sunday, June 4. The Orchards of True Juice Bob Walk. Come alive with another staging of the True Juice 5K. Come run, walk, and have some fun as we raise funds for the Linstead Hospital. Enjoy the natural beauty of our island while enjoying a truly Jamaican vibe. Entry fee $2,000. Register now at truejuice.com. There's no other 5K like it. Follow at True Juice on Instagram for more details.
Jamaica, let us arrive alive. We know everyone has somewhere to be or someone to see. Whether you're going on a trip, headed to a party, running errands, getting gifts, or visiting family and friends. Arrive alive. Slow down. There's no rush. Look out for yourself and others. Don't let your life be a statistic. Too many Jamaicans are dying on our roads. So take time upon the road. Arrive alive.
A message from the Office of the Prime Minister.
Holt's Hardware and Supplies for electrical, plumbing, and building items at low prices. Everything you need for the home. Rugs, decorative curtain rods, sheet set, picture frames, indoor and outdoor lights, and more. That's Holt's Hardware, St. John's Road between Ebony and Royal Place, Spanish Town, St. Catherine. Telephone 876-648-7166 or 876-648-7017. Holt's Hardware, the leader in electrical and building supplies.
Educom does it again with the mega car loan sale. 100% financing, interest rate of 6.95% and up to 10 years to repay. Hurry now and visit any of our 9 branches. Call Educom at 876-926-6973 or WhatsApp 876-559-7575 for more info. Educom Cooperative Credit Union Limited. Value through service.
The time by Jenni Group Marketing is now 7:33. You're listening to The Morning Watch with Reverend Dr. Dionne Toussaint.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Dionne Toussaint. Let's now look at the newspapers to see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing in the Gleaner. Petrojam denies claims of purchasing Russian oil. In the Observer, first world status by 2030, not with current land titling roadblocks, attorney argues. Also in the Observer, U.S. court awaits more than U.S. $100 million to Trinidad and Tobago. And then in Loop News, Jamaicans being urged to start or spruce up backyard and school gardens. And then finally in Loop News, the world's oldest dog celebrates 31st birthday according to Guinness World Records. 31st birthday. Interesting. Happy birthday to that dog. All right. Coming up next, we'll read some of the feedback from our social media question. How would you describe the modern day modest and decent Christian? We're asking you to leave a comment on our Facebook page and YouTube channel, Love 101 FM Jamaica, or WhatsApp 876-997-3125. We'll be right back.
Get ready for another inspiring show this Testimony Tuesday inside Alive 1 to 5 May 16, packed with inspirational stories and island-flavored music. 1:45 we bring you the brain-dusting Menticize Listener Speak Edition. Stick around for prayer blast at 2 o'clock as we ring in the prayer bells of heaven. 2:15 inside the evidence, we share with you another testimony boasting about the power of God. Then at 3 p.m., we go behind the pulpit for another inspiring story. All this and more will come alive 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. May 16 with me, Sarah, and the Chirpy One on the family station, Love 101. Celebrating 30 years of music, family, and love.
Give him praise, give him praise. Where the student them see we are. Where the student see we are. I want to go on campus.
Coming up on Campus Connection, children and technology. Is the advancement in technology helping or harming our children? What are some of the things that we can do to protect our children from acts of cyberbullying, scamming, and other forms of criminal activities? Join us Tuesday, May 16 at 5:30 p.m. right here on Love 101 as we hear from our students and special guest Dr. Sheldon Campbell. So, is AI technology really safe? And what can children and parents do to ensure that they are safe while interacting in cyberspace? If anyone knows what WAMP on campus, it's our students. So you don't want to miss this episode. That's Campus Connection, Tuesday, May 16 at 5:30 p.m. on the Family Station, Love 101, celebrating 30 years of music, family, and love.
Campus connection, and that's a one from campus. Young people are hard from campus. Oh Lord, that's a one campus connection.
Hey, small people, listen up. Join us weekdays, Monday to Friday, 4 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. for the Small People Show with Auntie Colleen. Yes, every day we have something educational and fun for you to enjoy. Plus, on a fifth Friday, you get a chance to hail up your friends and community, and you could win a prize too. That's the Small People Show, where we aim to build characters and empower our small people for the future. Remember to tell a friend and stay for the fun. It's the Small People Show with Auntie Colleen on the Family Station, Love 101.
And he knows my name. Here is your opportunity to connect with someone who will listen, pray, and give guidance. It's the Ministry of Counseling and Prayer of the Edgewater Baptist Church. Please call 876-220-6474 or 876-332-7956. Weekdays between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. Saturdays and Sundays between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Please talk to someone if you're finding it particularly challenging to cope during this period of crisis. Someone is waiting for your call. Please reach out today, 876-220-6474 or 876-332-7956. It's the Telephone Counseling and Prayer Ministry of the Edgewater Baptist Church. A reminder that somebody cares. Endorsed by Love 101.
When I come to the end of myself, Father, carry me.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dionne Toussaint. Let's now join Jokal for a look at how our Facebook, YouTube, and WhatsApp friends answered today's question. How would you describe the modern day modest and decent Christian? Any feedback? Jokal?
All right, so I do have a response here, and it says, well, this is from Faith from Washington Gardens. Faith says, good morning to you all. Very good question. Is it still someone who studied the word and walks thus saith the Lord? So that's the only one we have here on WhatsApp for right now.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Was that Faith? Thank you very much,
Yes.
Faith. Yeah, for the response. Okay, we now segue into the second watch. Are you a modern day modest and decent Christian? Now, some church leaders are bemoaning what looks like a deviation from the moderate and appropriate way of attire. Has the church become too relaxed in this regard? And what are the biblical principles of modesty and appropriateness in adornment? Well, to answer these and other related questions, we have joined us this morning Pastor Dionne Lindo-Witter, pastor of the Shalom Deliverance Center in Mineral Heights, Clarendon, and Pastor Luke Smith, youth and worship pastor of the Uprising City Church in Montego Bay. Good morning to you both. Good morning to you both. I don't know if they are being heard and I'm not hearing them.
All right.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning
Good
to you and
morning.
listeners.
Good to have both of you with us, Pastor Smith and Pastor Lindo-Witter. All right, let's hit the ground running. Can you define or describe modest and decent Christian is? Beginning with you, Pastor Witter.
Good morning again, and good morning to our listeners. As Reverend Toussaint, as far as I'm concerned, a modern Christian should be equal to an ancient Christian. What I mean is that there's just one standard for Christianity. You understand? And the standard is holiness and righteousness. I know that a lot of persons, in terms of concerning our attire, they like to quote that scripture in Joel that says, "Rend your heart and not your garment." You know, it is completely taken out of context, because that word "rend" means tear. It doesn't mean wear. You understand what I'm saying? And so
it's not render, it's rend. Two different
right,
things.
it's rend, and it means to display. It display real grief that
Signs
really
of remorse.
hits the spot. Right. So we as believers must demonstrate beyond the shadow of a doubt that Jesus is our Lord. We are his subjects, we are his followers, his disciples, and we are willing. You know, it's not under any kind of duress. It's a view that we are bought into. It's principles that we have embraced, that the standard that he sets is the standard that we want to follow. The things that he demands of us are what we want to obey. Right. So
okay. Pastor Smith, your take on that?
Yes, good morning, Doctor, and your listeners, and also Pastor Witter. I share similar sentiments, because I think I'm not denying, how we can be perceived based on our attire, because they say you should dress how you want to be addressed. But I don't think, when it comes down to modesty, as it relates to us as believers, it should be defined by our outward appearance. That very famous verse in Samuel, when Samuel went to anoint David, that man looks on the outward appearance, but God looks at the heart, because we can be well dressed and not be decent in any way internally, as it relates to our heart posture. So I believe when it comes on to even our definition of modesty and decency for us as believers, it has to be more and deeper than our attire. But for our working definition of modesty, from the dictionary, it's an attitude of humility and decency in dress, grooming, language, and behavior. But again, to go back to my point, you can have all of those.
Attitude of what, Pastor? Say it again.
It's an attitude of humility and decency in dress, grooming, language, and behavior. But I'm saying that you can have decency in your dress, grooming, language, and behavior, and still be far from the Lord, because our when it relates to what makes us right before the Lord, it's about our heart, never our behavior. So those are just some thoughts as we continue discussion.
All right, interesting. We're really up on a break right now. Hold those thoughts even further. We'll be right back.
Sardine for the chef and the beginner. Follow the one with pepper, that are the winner. Shop on supermarkets, everybody
sardines, follow the better flavor.
The time is
7:46.
They're full of life. You're full of love. They're carefree. You care more. That's why we created Child Protector, a critical illness insurance plan from Sagicor Life. It provides coverage for your child in the event of 15 critical illnesses, hospitalization benefits, life insurance, and investment benefits. So make sure your child can live life to the fullest. Apply for Sagicor Child Protector today.
Holtz Hardware and Supplies for electrical, plumbing, and building items at low prices. Everything you need for the home. Rugs, decorative curtain rods, sheet set, picture frames, indoor and outdoor lights, and more. That's Holtz Hardware, St. John's Road between Ebony and Royal Place, Spanish Town, St. Catherine. Telephone 876-648-7166 or 876-648-7017. Holtz Hardware, the leader in electrical and building supplies.
Educom does it again with the mega car loan sale. 100% financing, interest rate of 6.95% and up to 10 years to repay. Hurry now and visit any of our 9 branches. Call Educom at 876-926-6973 or WhatsApp 876-559-7575 for more info. Educom Cooperative Credit Union Limited. Value through service.
You work hard to make Jamaica a first-class destination. Isn't it time you receive the 5-star benefits? Retire smarter with the Tourism Workers Pension Scheme, a portable plan that also provides your family with financial security in case of your untimely death. It's easy, affordable, and accessible online. Retire and relax with the Tourism Workers Pension Scheme. Visit twps.myguardiangroup.com or call 876-927-4105. Guardian Life. Live secure. Live easy.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dionne Toussaint, and in this, the second watch, we are exploring who or what is the modern day modest and decent Christian. And in so doing, we have online Pastor Dionne Lindo-Witter, pastor of the Shalom Deliverance Center in Mineral Heights, Clarendon, and Pastor Luke Smith, youth and worship pastor of the Uprising City Church in Montego Bay. Now, before the break, we're trying, ladies and gentlemen, to define and to describe the whole matter of modesty and decency. I think you did a good job with that. But there are those who would argue, doesn't it have a lot to do with context and culture, age and stage when we talk about modesty and decency in this modern era? What's your response to that? Beginning again with you, Pastor Witt. Yes, Pastor Witter?
I think you're muted, Pastor Witter, in case you're speaking.
Yes, thank you. So earlier on, I was making the point that the word modern, I think, is the operative word here, that what goes for ancient Christians goes for the modern Christian. Mm-hmm. God is not a changeable person. God is immutable. And when God sets a standard, he being wise and we otherwise, we have to ascribe to him that is a worthy standard and that is a right standard and that is a good standard. So God is not busy editing and updating his standard to suit changeable times. All right, so it is not new that the people of God has been interfacing with culture that is different from what is demanded of us in the Word of God. And neither is it new that in many circumstances over the history of the people of God, that they have acquiesced and succumbed and compromised with what obtains in culture. Mm-hmm. But all of that is descriptive. It's never prescriptive, because as I said earlier on, God has not changed his standard. So yes, there is culture. I think famously represented is when Jesus said, we are in the world, but we are not of it. You know, we were not intended to blend in, but to stand out, just as light is different from darkness and salt is different from decay. So The pressures are there. The alternatives are there, but they are not recommended for the people of God. Let me just say this additionally, that Pastor Smith alluded to that what God requires is our heart. But you see, our heart registers our attitude towards God, and it is also going to reflect in how we attire ourselves. Jesus said, out of the heart proceeds so and so and so. So if our dress, if we dress in a way that is indecent, and I'm not saying that indecency is subjective, because the people of God must have enough discernment to understand what is decent and what is not.
Yeah.
What is acceptable and what is lewd and what is not.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Pastor Smith, your take on that? Context, culture, age, and stage. Doesn't that have a lot to do with how we determine these things?
I'm agreeing with Sister with Pastor Witter because you know there's a level of subjectivity to some of the when it comes on to modesty and what it might mean from believer to believer, because you think about things like body types, and you can have two people wearing similar things, and one may be a lot more revealing depending on the type of body that person may have. And so it comes down to discernment, as Sister Witter mentioned, and knowing that our actions should not be geared at drawing attention to us, especially as believers, but decency and modesty brings the sense of recognizing that I should never be the focus. Because think of within my context as a worship leader, if I am going up on stage, in muscle shirts and all that kind of thing, it would be focused on drawing attention to me as I lead the Lord's people into worship, and I can become a stumbling block. And so I think the idea of discernment is so important, even on this discussion of modesty, because we're not necessarily saying that for women they should come dress wrapped up from head to toe and that kind of thing. And especially for me, who is a lot closer to the Gen Z generation, it's a discussion that we have all the time, because you'll hear sometimes you invite some of these kids to church and they say they don't have no church clothes. What does that mean? And so I think even discussions like these are always so important for us to have within that context. And I think this is a very helpful conversation that we're having here.
Pastor Smith, it's interesting that you mentioned about muscle shirt in terms of men, because a view out there is that a lot of these type of discussions are actually
it's for women,
on the females, and we need to we need to balance the thing.
Balance it.
What's your take on that? And then I throw the question over to Pastor Witter.
Yeah, man, fully in agreement, because again, it should be on us recognizing that we should, in all that we do as believers, we should be stepping stones and never stumbling blocks for the people of God. And
I don't think we focus too much on the women with these issues, Pastor.
Yeah, man, I agree, and even
the females.
Right, and so it's so important to balance that, because we men, we can be stumbling blocks too. And so as it relates to having that kind of wisdom and discernment, especially for those of us that have leadership positions, I think it's so important to allow discernment and living for God and modeling what the Lord has called us to be the things that
all right.
that drives
Witter?
how we
Pastor
dress,
Witter, your take on that? Is she muted again, Pastor Witter?
Yeah, I think you're muted, Pastor Witter. So you'll have to unmute.
Right. Thank you. I'm not sure why it is happening. In terms of the application of decency and modesty to one's attire, it goes for both genders. I suppose maybe because seduction and allurement and so on may be more associated with females. Maybe that's why they may come up for mention more than men. Not that it is absent among the men, but as I said, in terms of the frequency of those kind of behavior, maybe it's more pronounced among women. But the standard of decency in one's attire is applicable to both genders. Men should dress decently as well as women.
Okay. All right. As we wind on the discussion, let's throw this final question to both of you, beginning with you, Pastor Smith. What's your response to those who just say, boy, we have more important things to discuss in the church, you know? Things like hatred, malice, envy, backbitedness, all them things there, rather than focus on people's attire. Your take on that first, Pastor Smith?
I think all of them are important. I think all of them are issues at the heart. All things that can be distracting. Because we, as Sister Witter mentioned, we should be in the world but not of it. And I think if we look so much like the world in our attire, our behavior, etc., I don't think there is much of a draw that's there when it comes on to why people should see the church as any different. And so we really want to be wise in that. We don't want to border it and go too far on the side of legalism, where we're saying, you have to wear a suit and a tie if you want to come to church. But we want to, model that there are standards, because when you're going to going to an interview for a job, you can't wear shorts and you can't wear a t-shirt. Right. And then just balancing that within the culture, etc. So standards, but also letting people know that it's not how you dress that defines who you are as a believer. Those are my thoughts.
Pastor Witter, you have the final word in a minute.
No, just to say that what you worrying about how people dress, you have envy and malice. That's an attempt to weight sin. Sin is sin. And all issues that are offensive to God must be addressed. So it's not weighting one over and above the other, and it's not weighting one at the expense of the other. All of these issues need to be addressed, including dressing decently and modestly.
Okay. All right. Thank you both for joining us. Interesting statement made earlier. Dress how you want to be addressed. You said it faster, Witter.
No, it wasn't me.
It was me.
It was you. Dress how you want to be addressed.
Oh, be addressed, yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a productive day. God bless you both.
God bless.
Thank you, listeners, for being with us. Join us again tomorrow as we continue to set the stage for a discussion of topical and controversial issues. For information on how to get copies of this program, call our production department at 876-968-959627. This has been the Morning Watch. Thanks to our producer, Kathy Gale, and our guests. I'm Toussaint, and you're back to Love in the Morning with Chukal Daya.